What's good, y'all? So this is how I caught 50 points and made $500 trading the NASDAQ futures today. So let's get right into the charts. So here I have the hourly chart of the NASDAQ futures put up here, and you can see each day of the week is delineated here. Today's Thursday, and you can see we've pretty much been selling off most of the week. Monday, we had a large sell-off out of this bearish fair value gap. Traded back into this one on Tuesday, sold off again, and traded into this one from Wednesday or on Tuesday yesterday, and then sold off again. But I want to point your attention to something that happened yesterday. So going into yesterday after trading, you could see that in the morning session, the New York morning session, we did have this sweep of liquidity here, right, from the London session highs. We swept those highs into this hourly fair value gap, completely mitigated it, and then sold off, right? We inverted this bullish BISI here on the hourly chart, and then sold off here for the rest of the day into these lows from Tuesday. Now, when we sold off yesterday, we did have an hourly change of state of delivery here. So the reason this is obviously a change of state of delivery is because we closed below the series of up close candles that took out the high from here, right? So this validated that we were continuing to hold bullish order flow, bearish order flow going into today, right? And the only way that could potentially change going into today is if we got a close above these series of down close candles. Why? Because these series of down close candles are the ones that swept the lows, right? So these lows were swept. These lows yesterday were swept by this price run here. So in order for us to now be bullish, we would have to close above these candles, right? Many people would look at these series of down close candles and say, oh, once we close above these, that's a change of state of delivery back to the upside. We're now bullish again on the higher time frame. That's not correct, because this price run did not sweep any lows. This price run did not sweep this low, right? But this price run from the afternoon sell-off swept this low. So that is still the only valid price run that we would need to get above in order to validate that we are now bullish, right? So going into the day, I was watching in this morning to see, is the hourly candle going to close into this above that level, right? So this is kind of how the market looked going into the hourly. So you can see here at 8 a.m. we kind of sold off, and then at 9 a.m. What happened was we came back, and I'll show you what happened actually, because it was perfect, right? We had this buy side liquidity resting here, right? And then we had this sell side liquidity here from London session lows, right? And then we had Asia session lows here from last night, right? So we did have some data that came out. It was pretty, unimportant, didn't really do anything. But you could see, I'll go to a 5 minute so it's a little faster. You could see here what happened. The market then going into market open, what happened? Well, we traded back higher, swept these highs, right? And then going into the 9:30 a.m. Opening, equities open, right? The market came, traded lower, and then traded higher, swept these highs here, right? And once we swept those highs, came back and swept these highs. So now these highs were now taken. And this now validated a change of state of delivery. Once we got a close below here, this got inverted. This validated a change of state of delivery lower to the downside here, right? Now, essentially, this is extremely bearish. This is an extremely bearish setup, right? We swept liquidity. We had a change of state of delivery. We inverted this fair value gap, the first presented fair value gap of the day, right? So now the market then pretty much just sells off completely for the next pretty much 30 minutes, right? So we sell off into a new week opening gap that was resting down here. And then we also do come and take this sell side liquidity ultimately once that new hourly candle opens at 10 a.m. So once that new hourly candle opens, we sweep this liquidity and we run back up here, and we do form some 15-minute imbalances here. So you can see we formed a 15-minute CISD here after we swept this liquidity. And so now potentially I was looking for a continuation lower after this huge sell-off. I'm convinced that on the daily chart, if we look at the daily, we still have to go much lower, right? We still have this draw on liquidity here, these equal lows here, right? We took out this low from February, but I do want to see us go take these lows and then ultimately maybe this low as well. So to me, the job wasn't done. So going into, I didn't actually take my that first trade setup here. You could see we respected, like I said, we respected that hourly change in state here. Because again, if the market was going to be bullish, we would have closed above it, respected it, came back down. And my first trade entry didn't actually come until like 11 o'clock. So if we go to the 11 o'clock hour, there were some pretty good setups that had formed here. So you can see now, remember we were trading inside of that 15-minute fair value gap here, which I'll go ahead and outline. Right, we had this 15-minute CISD, which the market was trading in. And then we also had this buy side liquidity now resting up here, which I was watching for us to potentially sweep and to take us lower, right? So the market comes up here and we do ultimately end up sweeping this high here, right? So that's a buy side liquidity sweep. That's a buy side liquidity sweep there. So now this is something that's key to note here. A lot of people don't truly understand the change of state of delivery because they don't know which series of up close or down close candles they should be using to validate it. And let me actually rewind this so we can get that. So let's say the market looked like this. If we sweep this high, as of right now, the change of state of delivery would not be until here, right? So let's say the market swept this high and you wanted to know, okay, I'm waiting for the change of state of delivery to validate my short entry. Right now, it's currently all the way down here because this is the series of up close candles that swept that high, right? So obviously there's no trade here for me right now. So now you got to just kind of watch. So you can see we do trade higher here. And once we put in this new low here and put in this high and take out this short-term high here, now our change of state of delivery moves here, right? So now for me to be, where's it at? I guess I don't have it on here. For me to be bearish, I need to see us close below here. That's much better than obviously way down here, right? Because your risk reward is going to be much better, right? Because now we took out this high. So that was a liquidity sweep again, right? So we can go ahead and mark that as a liquidity sweep, put that on the top, right? And so now I'm waiting for the market to close below here and seeing if we can get that. We come back, retest that order block, and now we come and we make another high. So now we take out this high, right? So now this high gets taken out. And this is now becomes our change of state of delivery. Now we need to close below here, right? So you can see how that changes in real time based on which high we take out. So now the market comes down here. We don't close quite yet there, but we do here, right? And so now the entry would be on a retest, which we get here. So this was an amazing, amazing entry. I was in a meeting, so I missed this entry completely. I literally missed it by a couple minutes. I got out my meeting and I was like, man, that was a good entry up there. And it was already selling off. So I didn't even end up getting to take this. But literally, you could see this was a great target down here. We had this sell side liquidity resting here inside a higher time frame array, right? Had a sweep of liquidity and a change of state of delivery. Market retested perfectly. This is a protected high. Could have entered here with stop loss. Oops, wrong one. Entered here with your stop loss above this high, 20 points, targeting this high here for 130 points. That to me was the best trade. And you can see it literally just kind of went down there. We did pull back a little bit into a 5-minute fair value gap that was resting here. There was a new week opening gap here as well from like a few months back. So that was something to be aware of. But you can see we do get the delivery down into that low here at 11:52 a.m. And you can see that was a great trade. Literally, less than 30 minutes, 30 points. Amazing trade. But like I said, I missed that trade. So now I was potentially watching for us to come back and take some sort of liquidity. And what I noticed was that we did end up forming a 15-minute fair value gap again here. So now I was watching for us to retrace back into this 15-minute fair value gap and potentially sell off. And this is why you don't chase the market, because a new setup always forms. And if it doesn't, one will come the next day. But once I saw that this had sold off here, I was like, I'm not interested in chasing it. Yes, you could have re-entered here in the second stage of accumulation on this, fair value gap. But I personally either want to get in on my entry or I'm gonna miss out completely. So ultimately, the trade I ended up taking was once we pulled back into this fair value gap, you can see that we came up here and there was actually an SMT with the ES. Let me see. We came up here and SMT'd with ES at this high, right? So to me, this is obviously the same thing as a sweep, right? So ES took this high while the NASDAQ didn't. So now I'm waiting. Okay, where's my short entry? Like I said before, well, a change in state of delivery as of now is all the way down here. So obviously I'm not going to be sitting here waiting for this to, for the market to sell off all the way down here before seeing if I get an entry, right? So kind of waiting. At this point, I'm waiting. We need to sweep another high, right? And that's how I know. This is how you kind of learn how to read price action. Because I know my entry needs a change of state. Now, what does that mean? Well, we need to put in a new low and sweep a new high so that my change of state could be at a different spot, right? So now the market kind of trades lower. We do put in this low here, and then ultimately we run back up. Fail to take this high again, but something interesting does happen here, right? Because now at this point, the change in state is still down here, right? I can't say that this is the change in state because this high, this price run has not taken a high yet. So I need to see, okay, when are we going to actually take a high? We do that here. And yes, we barely took this high, but this is technically a sweep of liquidity, right? This is technically a sweep of liquidity because we traded above a short-term high here, right? And so for me, that's validated that my change in state now becomes this candle, right? Why? Because that's the last up close candle, the last series of up close candles that took out a high, right? So now I'm watching for us to close below here and for the market to potentially sell off. Also, one thing I want to point out is that there was also a double SMT here, right? We had an SMT. The ES did not take out this high, right? Very hard to see, of course, but that's the SMT, right? This was a sweep and we had this SMT. So now I'm waiting to see, okay, is the market going to retest? Are we going to close below here, which we ultimately do here? And so now at this point, I need a retest of this change in state, right? And now because we got this SMT, this is a protected high, so I can trust that this high will not get broken. Now targeting some sort of internal liquidity here, right? And there was also a new week opening gap here. So I believe my target was around right here. No, it was like here. There was a new week opening gap in here and I targeted the midpoint because this was the high of it. This was the low of it because I remember we were trading between it. And I targeted the midpoint here. So it was about, a little close to a 3-to-1 risk to reward, 4-to-1 risk to reward. I actually got in here at about 56 because I was watching on this retest. You can see, look at this. Algorithmically, this is algorithmic. This is how you know the market runs on an algorithm. We come and retest this change in state by a tick, literally by a tick. You can see the high, we touch it. Remember, we're in this 15-minute fair value gap here. We're above it, but on the 15, we still hadn't closed outside of it. So this is all wick on the 15-minute. So we retest that change of state perfectly. I enter short here with 5, stop loss above this high. So again, less than 20 points I'm risking, targeting internal liquidity here. And you can see this was an amazing trade because literally the market just sells off pretty quickly right into those highs, into those lows, and ultimately we do end up retracing higher. So amazing trade, and you can see the logic in this, right? You can see all the logic, right? And if we look at the 15, you can see that this, yeah, we mohawked out of it, but to me, this is still, we respected it, right? We come and retest this opening price of this 15-minute candle, and we come back and reclaim this fair value gap. So this was an amazing trade. This was the setup I took today. Very straightforward, very quick. You could see all my confirmations I have that I need. I got SMT, sweep of liquidity, change of state of delivery. And then we also had, of course, some inverted fair value gaps as well. So yeah, that was a trade I took today. Great setup, great trade. And honestly, that's kind of my model that I'm looking for every single time I'm trading. So that's all I got for y'all in this one. I will see y'all in the next one.